Hi, I'm Hannah. This is Theology Therapist, and I've spoken to you recently about religious trauma. But where would that happen? Like, where would that be taking place? So it's likely to happen. It's likely to occur in fundamentalist or cultish groups, and this is for a few reasons. So today I want to talk to you about those reasons. What makes a cult culty? Here are some telltale signs. First, there is usually a charismatic and authoritarian leader who is the link between the followers and the divine. So culty groups generally have in common a leader who naturally draws people to him. Now, notice I said him because these are almost exclusively male, but it's not a given. It can be female. Think Teal Swan recently. So that can happen, but by and large, a lot of times, these are men. And he usually uses his natural charisma to smooth over or kind of soften the blow of the sort of authoritarian words or message that he's delivering. So even though it's not exclusively men, I'm just going to use he at this point because a lot of times they are men. Know that it could be interchangeable with she. So he is the point person between followers and God. And so questioning him is equal to questioning God. Okay, another thing that culty groups have in common is that they tend to limit the contact with outside sources that would call into question the group or the leader. This can be through formal education like homeschooling, or it could be through pop culture, friends, dating, etc. Now, fundamentalist and culty groups tend to have very narrowly defined roles for women: childbearing, mothering, housekeeping. Women are allowed to exist within these contexts, and they're socialized from an early age to believe that these things are good and right, and that they should want them even. These groups also have strict rules around sex and tend to not allow birth control. So sex is highly controlled by the leader and is always in the context of the husband and his needs. There are strict dress codes exclusively applying to women. Long hair, no makeup, covering arms and legs with long sleeves, long skirts, no pants, and no jewelry. So modesty and purity are taught as a fundamental virtue, that if a woman disobeys this, she is sinning and God is ready to punish her. So one telltale sign is that there generally tends to be fear-mongering. So the idea here is that God is ready and waiting to punish you, and that the devil is lurking behind any corner. This is the biggest, most pervasive tactics used in cultish groups. It's actually how they exist and how a leader can motivate followers to adhere to strict rules that are often unpleasant and sometimes even traumatizing for the people who are in that group. So suffering is also a big one. It's viewed as a spiritual virtue that God condones. Suffering is promoted as a way to refine a person. The idea is that suffering and the effects of it makes someone more pleasing to God. God appreciates those who suffer. Last thing on my list today about what makes a cult culty is this idea of praying away sickness instead of medical intervention. So in these groups, a person actually may be discouraged from seeking medical intervention or proper medical attention, and instead may be told to pray as a form of healing. So this isn't in any way an exhaustive list, but since I have been talking more and more lately about culty groups, you may be hearing this and thinking, am I in one of those? Or like, what do you mean when you're saying that? So I want to kind of talk you through what are some characteristics that tend to define some of the bigger characteristics that tend to define these groups. Because, a lot of times when we're talking about religion nowadays, we just can lump everything together. We can sort of say, oh, well, religion itself is a cult. And so, but if everything is a cult, then nothing is. And so it's important for us to know what we're saying when we're saying it. And it's important for when we're talking about cults, it's important for us to know that. So I'm curious, have you or a loved one ever experienced any one of these? If so, it's very important that you have support as you navigate leaving and making sense of your experience. Remember, if you begin therapy, you are always welcome to leave at any time. If it doesn't feel good for you, you're never required to stay. If you're in Massachusetts and you would like the support of a licensed therapist who has gone through this journey to be with you as you are journeying through, click the link in the description to schedule a free 15-minute consultation. Be well. See you next week.